Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second part of today's reInvent. I hope that your week has been going great and you've been learning a lot this year. Well, this session will talk about using anomaly detection to recognize database performance issues, which is a very exciting topic. My name is Maxim Karchenko, and I'm a senior database engineer working on this project.
Thanks, Maxim. I'm Jeremiah Wilton. I'm a principal engineer in AWS Database Services. We're really grateful for the opportunity today to talk to you about DevOps Guru for RDS. This is a great new capability for DevOps Guru that uses machine learning to help you manage your database performance as part of the full application stack. We think it's a really exciting and useful innovation, and we hope you will too. So today we're going to start out by setting some context, telling you a little bit about RDS, about Aurora and Performance Insights, which are foundational concepts and building blocks of DevOps Guru for RDS. Then we're going to take a little time to understand an important metric that we use called database load. We'll learn how it's derived. We'll learn why it's important. And then we're going to walk through this great new feature, DevOps Guru for RDS, including how to enable it, how it helps you, how it works. After that, I'm going to hand over to Maxim, who's going to walk you through a few concrete examples of DevOps Guru for RDS findings, so you can get a sense of how it can help you detect, understand, and react to performance concerns that may arise on even the best-tuned databases. I know all your databases are perfectly tuned, but you know, this is just in case, right? Okay, so first, let's level set. We always have to do this. Some of you probably are already familiar with RDS and Aurora, but just in case some of you aren't, we're going to tell you a little bit about what it is. RDS and Aurora are what we call managed database services. In essence, these are services that automatically manage and take care of all the mundane day-to-day tasks for you. These are the kinds of things like provisioning a new database, scaling up and down, taking care of backups and recoveries, high availability and disaster recovery. And the list goes on and on. There's lots of things that it takes care of for you. Basically, everything that you would be scripting yourself or doing manually on a conventional database, we automate that in RDS and Aurora. And sometimes there's a little confusion around what is special about Aurora compared to, for instance, RDS MySQL or RDS Postgres, the open source databases. Well, Aurora is a cloud-native database engine. We designed it specifically to meet the needs of enterprise customers who are accustomed to sort of the legacy commercial on-premises databases that have been used for decades. These are customers who need powerful, full-featured databases but are getting tired of the legacy database companies' punitive licensing, their significant expense, and in general, their lack of cloud-native capabilities. So Aurora is our answer to that need for those types of customers. At the Aurora prompt, the SQL prompt in Aurora, it looks and feels just like Postgres or MySQL. But behind the scenes, it features a distributed, fault-tolerant, self-healing storage system that auto-scales up to 128 terabytes per database. And also, each Aurora cluster has the ability to have to be replicated automatically across 3 availability zones. It also has the ability to provide availability with up to 15 low-latency read replicas. So in essence, Aurora is a cloud-native, massively scalable, and highly available database service. And it's aiming to address the high-end enterprise use cases in a way that MySQL and Postgres can't necessarily do in every use case all by themselves. And with Aurora, we're aiming to do it with a much lower cost to customers than those legacy commercial databases that I mentioned before. As I've mentioned before, in RDS and Aurora, we want to make it easy for you to set up and manage databases. And an important part of managing databases is managing performance. Even the best tuned databases, like yours, need some kind of performance help at one time or another. And being able to see and understand what's happening in your database is a key capability. And we know that relational databases have a reputation for being complex and difficult to tune, requiring gurus to figure out how to fix them. So in 2017, we introduced a dashboard called Performance Insights. Performance Insights shows you your current activity running in the database at the current time. It shows you your database metrics, and it shows you your top SQL commands. And this is all in a simple, straightforward console screen on the RDS console. But the core innovation of Performance Insights is actually a single metric that we call database load. This metric is the key to simplifying and understanding database performance. And it's at the heart of Performance Insights, and it's at the heart of DevOps Guru for RDS. We're just going to take a little detour and take some time to explain this database load metric a little bit. So let's talk a little bit about it. What is this metric? It simply is a count of how many database sessions are active at any given time in your database. Performance Insights comes into your database and once per second counts how many sessions are active in your database. What do I mean by session? By session, I mean a connection to your database. A session is just another one of those database terms. It means a connection to the database. But we're not just counting all the sessions. We're only counting the active ones. That is to say, the connections where the database is actually in the middle of fulfilling a request at the time we go in and check it. So that means that we're counting, once per second, the sessions that are not idle, but rather are active in a database call at that moment in time. And it turns out that this count, especially if you average it over 1 minute or 5 minute or 15-minute time periods, is a very accurate measure of how stressed a database is. So in Performance Insights, we usually show this metric in periodic averages, like in a 5-minute average or a 10-minute average or a 15-minute average. So because we're averaging the metric over chunks of time, in part just to be able to display it well in a graph, we use a unit of measure for this metric called average active sessions, or AAS for short. So database load is RDS and Aurora's core and central metric for measuring performance health. At Amazon, we've found this to be a single metric that is possibly the most reflective of service quality from the perspective of an end user or a customer. All right, just to get a little more technical about this metric, I want to show you exactly how we derive this metric from your database activity. As we mentioned before, a session is a connection. So here on the screen, you can see a single connection to the database. And you can also see a request that connection is making to the database. And down at the bottom, you can see a timeline. The timeline is in seconds, so second 1 through second 20 there. This is just for illustration purposes. But database connections don't usually make just one request to the database, do they? Usually make many, many requests in succession. So kind of like this. Here we see many requests in succession to the database. And that's just one connection, right? There probably, in your database, are many connections making many requests in succession to a database, kind of like this. And you know, the other thing about it is that each connection may be fulfilling many, many requests, and those requests may have a variety of durations. So what Performance Insights does is it comes in and samples the number of active sessions. So if you look at these vertical lines here, those are representing Performance Insights coming in and sampling your active sessions in the database. And if you actually go ahead and count them up, and down at the bottom now, you can see the numbers that represent going down through each one of these vertical lines and counting how many sessions were active at each moment in time. You can see that that actually creates our database load metric, the metric which we've been talking about. So you can see the database load creates a time series out of active sessions in your database. So it's just a simple count, and that's database load in its most basic form. Now I want to show you something else interesting. During a database request, the database request might be doing all kinds of different things, not just one kind of thing. So it might spend some time doing reads. It might spend some time doing writes. It might spend some time waiting on CPU or waiting on locks or something like that. So it seems like if you look at all these different colors, they could represent all the different types of things that a session might be doing over its lifetime, over the lifetime of a request. So this metric, if you look at it this way, it stands to reason that this metric and this sampling approach offers an opportunity not only to show how many requests are being handled at a given time, but also show you exactly what those requests are doing. Because every active database request is going to be doing something at any given moment in time. It'll be running on CPU, reading from disk, or something, right? A database request that's active is not idle. It's doing something at every given moment. So if you can instrument each moment in time that it's doing something, you can get a good idea of how to characterize that load. So now I want to introduce this concept called wait events. Most modern database engines, like SQL Server and Oracle and MySQL and Postgres, are instrumented with what we call wait events. And those wait events, basically what they are just names or labels for what a request is doing at any given time in the database. In this illustration, it may be a sort of a simplified version of it, but each of these colors represents a different wait state or wait event in an imaginary database. Now, real databases like Postgres and MySQL, Oracle, and SQL Server all have different names for their dozens of various wait events. But just for illustration here, let's say that there's a database type with just 4 kinds of wait events: CPU, read I/O, write I/O, and locks. You can see that these different waits reflected in the active session requests. So if we not only count up the active sessions, but also count how many are in each different wait state, it means we can build a very nice visualization. And that's a visualization that we can use to characterize the prevalence of the various different kinds of wait events that are happening in a database's active sessions over time. And this type of visualization is at the heart of Performance Insights. Keep in mind, we're still talking about database load. Database load is this key core metric that can tell you when a database is having performance issues. And the wait event breakdown can tell you why it's having performance issues. So now that we have a way of finding performance issues, and also a way of understanding why we're having them, what is our first instinct at AWS? Our first instinct is to automate it. At AWS, we automate things to reduce our customers' operational burden. And we've also heard our customers telling us that they didn't want to have to browse around in Performance Insights looking for problems and analyzing wait events manually. They wanted advice, so we got to work. And today, we're really excited to be able to tell you about this brand new capability of Aurora and DevOps Guru called DevOps Guru for RDS. For a long time, customers have been telling us that they like a lot of things about Performance Insights and CloudWatch, these tools that let them explore all kinds of issues around database performance and troubleshooting. But our customers also told us loud and clear that they want a little more help tracking down potential problems, and even more importantly, figuring out what to do about them. And that's where DevOps Guru comes in. Since being released last May, DevOps Guru has been helping customers by telling them about unusual and problematic performance behavior throughout their entire application stack. This week, we're raising the bar for database diagnostics, bringing detailed database-specific capabilities to DevOps Guru. DevOps Guru for RDS goes several steps further than Performance Insights by using machine learning to detect and diagnose performance problems in your databases and using those to help you fix those problems quickly. Let's jump right in and take a look at what this capability can really do. DevOps Guru for RDS uses machine learning and anomaly detection to look for unusual and problematic performance events in your databases. When it finds one, it performs analysis on the anomaly to determine what kinds of conditions are contributing to it. Just some of the conditions that DevOps Guru for RDS can highlight are database wait states, also called wait events. That's just what we've just been finished discussing. And these are indications of what is causing bottlenecks in your database for specific users. The top SQL commands. These are the top SQL commands that are being sent to the database by the application and that are contributing chiefly to the anomaly. And any other notable metrics like memory and I/O that also might be contributing to the issue. Finally, DevOps Guru for RDS suggests what you can do next to address the issue. So it's analyzing all of these things, breaking them down, providing context around the nature of the anomaly that's occurring in your database, and then telling you what you might be able to do next to solve that issue. Let's take another moment to highlight a few things about this new capability that we think make it particularly useful for developers and database folks. First of all, DevOps Guru for RDS monitors for anomalies using that special metric that we've talked about called database load. As we've discussed, this metric registers any kind of database contention across every possible type of bottleneck in the database. It's been used for many years at Amazon as a bellwether metric for database monitoring. I started managing databases at Amazon in 1997, and we were using database load back then on those old legacy databases. So it's something we've used for a very long time. Our anomaly detection uses the database's metrics history to go back in time and look and establish a baseline workload pattern. And then it zeroes in on significant deviations from that pattern. And this provides a much more accurate and relevant set of findings than conventional static monitoring thresholds do. Those can be noisy. They can overload operators with alerts and alarms for things that really aren't problems. And so DevOps Guru for RDS analyzes these anomalies. It pulls them apart to their constituent pieces and is able to identify causes based on algorithms that we've developed from years of our experience doing performance analysis at Amazon across our many thousands of databases. And so what this ends up doing is it ends up providing customers clear explanations of the results of this analysis. The heaviest hitting bottlenecks get highlighted in DevOps Guru for RDS. And DevOps Guru provides clear next steps for what you can go ahead and do about them. I'm going to pause for 1 minute here and just explain what the difference is between DevOps Guru and DevOps Guru for RDS. DevOps Guru is a service that's been available on AWS since last May. Basically, what it does is look across your whole application stack for problematic behavior and then tells you what's going on. DevOps Guru already includes RDS and Aurora in their analysis, but up until now, it hasn't included a database deep dive. DevOps Guru for RDS adds a few special things to raise the bar in DevOps Guru. First of all, it fine-tunes the anomaly detection for Aurora to accommodate the particular workload patterns of relational databases. Then, as we've mentioned before, it shows the customer the results of a database-specific analysis and recommendation process. Well, if you're anything like me, you like to understand how things work. And so I'm going to show you a breakdown of how this capability actually functions, a little bit of internal information. It all starts with performance insights. This is, as I've mentioned before, the database tuning, metrics, and telemetry tool for RDS and Aurora. DevOps Guru for RDS relies on the data from performance insights. It also only works if you have performance insights enabled on your Aurora clusters. DevOps Guru for RDS ingests numeric metrics from performance insights It does not ingest any kind of sensitive data like your SQL statements or anything like that. It particularly monitors the database load metric, of course, this master metric, and it looks for anomalies in the database load metric, comparing the historical baselines to your current activity in order to pinpoint any kind of unusual behavior. One of the optimizations DevOps Guru for RDS has made for database workloads specifically is to account for seasonality. In a lot of database workloads, there are regular periodic spikes of activity. And these are coming from things like batch jobs, from ETL, reporting, that kind of stuff. Any kind of scheduled task that's happening on a cadence. DevOps Guru for RDS only highlights anomalies that are not periodic and that occur outside of the regular course of normal database activity. Once an anomaly gets detected, DevOps Guru for RDS performs analysis on the metrics that make up the anomaly, making note of the most prevalent wait states. It also makes note of the most prevalent SQL commands and also the other metrics that may be anomalous during the same period that coincide with the anomaly. Then, a rule-based algorithm processes the results and generates simple, straightforward explanations and recommendations. DevOps Guru for RDS sends basic anomaly information, including severity, time frame, resource IDs. It sends all this information over a channel to the main DevOps Guru service and to their console. DevOps Guru has the ability then to send SNS events in order to alert an operator that something is going on. And DevOps Guru then integrates any of the incoming database anomalies from RDS into the big picture of their full application stack analysis. So it's there in the DevOps Guru console that most customers are usually able to first find out about a particular database anomaly. Anytime DevOps Guru for RDS detects an anomaly in an Aurora cluster, the DevOps Guru console will highlight it and direct you to the DevOps Guru for RDS detail page for that anomaly. On that detail page, DevOps Guru for RDS displays the analysis results, providing the context necessary to understand what is contributing to the database issue. And it also it shows you the results of the analysis that can then point you to the best next steps for resolving the problem. Well, now that we've had a chance to introduce you to the feature, let's talk about how to get it working. As I mentioned before, DevOps Guru for RDS is part of DevOps Guru. And what that means is that in order to use it, you have to turn on DevOps Guru for your application stack or for your account. You can find DevOps Guru on the AWS console under Machine Learning. If you haven't enabled DevOps Guru for your account prior to this, you'll arrive on a page that looks like this. Here you just click Get Started. On the Getting Started page, you can learn a little bit about DevOps Guru and also see the permissions that the service needs in order to do its job. Scrolling down, you can choose which resources in your account you want DevOps Guru to monitor. You can choose to enable all the resources in the account, or if you click Choose Later, you can later select resources with a particular tag or a particular CloudFormation stack. Remember, DevOps Guru monitors your whole application. And so enabling by tag or enabling by CloudFormation stack, it helps DevOps Guru differentiate one application from another. Here on this page, you can also set up your SNS messages to receive alerts when DevOps Guru detects something happening in your environment. Once you've made all your choices, you just click Enable. When you first enable DevOps Guru, it needs some time to establish a baseline and begin detecting unusual patterns. You could start seeing insights in as soon as 2 hours after enabling it. And that would depend on the size of your account. It might also depend on, of course, whether or not something is actually going wrong in your system. This is the dashboard that will give you a summary across all your monitored resources. Once DevOps Guru begins detecting things in your account or your CloudFormation stack or your set of tagged resources, you'll find everything related to those applications listed in the Insights page. The individual insights have names that indicate one or more of the anomalous metrics that DevOps Guru detected. If you click into an insight, it will show you the insight detail page. Any given insight in DevOps Guru may or may not have RDS involvement, right? Like you could have an insight in DevOps Guru that was related to 5 other services that you use at AWS, not RDS. Or you might have an insight that included 3 other services that you use at AWS and also your Aurora databases. So when you go into any one of these things, you'll discover that your anomaly is composed of 1 or more services, which may or may not include RDS. On the Insight detail page, you can actually see exactly which metrics and services DevOps Guru detected were anomalous at any given time. This paints a picture of the overall issue going on in your application stack. It helps you understand the full extent and possible origins of an issue in your app stack. Looking at this particular example here, we have anomalous metrics from DynamoDB, from ECS, and also RDS. In the case of RDS, you can see that the anomalous metric is database load. You'll also see that there's a special button on that RDS metric that shows you that there's a finding, and it invites you to go and view that detailed analysis. And this is your indication that DevOps Guru for RDS has been triggered, and more analysis of that specific database component of the anomaly is available in DevOps Guru for RDS. Once you click on that, you'll be taken to this page. This is the detail page where you'll see the full extent of DevOps Guru for RDS. Let's take a close look at what this particular page is telling us. First of all, we have the name of the database instance. We have the engine type. We have the severity and the start time. In this case, looking at this issue, it's an ongoing issue, so there's no end time. It's happening right now. And the duration so far is about 3 hours. We've got a brief summary on this page of what has happened. It tells you that DevOps Guru for RDS detected that the database load was uncharacteristically high for this particular database. Looking just below that at the database load summary, you can see that we've included the DB load graph from Performance Insights here for the exact time frame of the anomaly. So that's coming straight from Performance Insights and being embedded in this page. This lets us see the anomaly visually, and it's telling us that the database load is 24, which is 6 times normal. And the anomalous period gets highlighted on the graph. It shows you where it detected the anomaly. Looking at this particular anomaly, what jumps out? To me, what jumps out is the green color. The predominant weight during this anomaly is CPU. And that tells us that whatever caused the performance issue of this anomaly was CPU intensive. Scrolling down, we can see that there are several other metrics that DevOps Guru for RDS detected were also unusually high during the anomaly period. The metrics shown here relate to the predominant aspects of the anomaly. For this anomaly, where we saw that the chief contributor was actually the CPU weight, the related metrics are also both CPU metrics, and we can see they're both elevated during the anomaly. This further confirms that in this case, CPU is a leading concern for this finding. Scrolling further down, we get to the analysis. DevOps Guru for RDS is telling us that it noticed a couple things. First, that database load was high, with 2 prevalent wait events, CPU and a wait event called IO table SQL handler. That last wait event name, IO table SQL handler, I will acknowledge is not self-explanatory. Not like those nice wait events I showed you in my pretend database at the beginning. And those types of database wait event names are typical of the ones that you'll find in the MySQL performance schema. The performance schema in MySQL is the feature that you enable in order to get wait event instrumentation in MySQL. So as part of this project, we realized that these wait event names were inscrutable to customers and also not really documented anywhere. So our database engineers at AWS undertook a separate initiative to research and document the most commonly seen wait events in the MySQL performance schema. And we did it as well for Postgres. We feel that this will help all kinds of users of these databases, not only users of DevOps Guru for RDS. So conveniently on this page, linked here, is a link to the new documentation that we've created for each one of these wait events that will show up in these findings. And this documentation provides diagnostic guidelines for each of these wait events. Also, DevOps Guru for RDS, in this case, has picked out 3 SQL statements that are likely causing the issue. If you hover over the SQL ID of the SQL statements that it picked out, it shows you the actual SQL text of the statement. If you click on that SQL ID, it will take you into Performance Insights and show you the details and history of that SQL statement. In addition, there's a second finding, that CPU capacity has been exceeded. It's more evidence that we're having a CPU-related issue. Based on CPU utilization here of 97% and a CPU run queue of 150 processes, which is pretty high. Now, what's the advice? The advice here is pretty simple. Go investigate these top SQL statements and go investigate the wait events that they're causing. You can use the wait event documentation that we're providing you to guide you in that investigation. Now, this advice is not particularly directive. And I want to just stop and talk about that a little bit. Some people would expect like this would give you a piece of advice that says like, go switch this particular parameter to Y, or go and change this table structure to X. The bar for giving advice on customer systems is very high. We're at a point now where we think that although this is not particularly directive, it's a great start. It would be a mistake to tell customers to make changes to their databases that would then lead them to cause regressions, for instance. Unless we can be absolutely certain that we're giving advice that will be helpful, we prefer not to give it. So this is a great start, we think. DevOps Guru for RDS finds application impacting problems that you might not otherwise know about. It zeroes in on the principal contributing factors, and it points you to information that you need in order to understand those issues. And this gets pretty much to the heart of what we're trying to do with this new feature. Databases and performance are complex problems. They're not simple. But with machine learning and with this new system, we can build a tool that will guide you to the solution. And with that, I want to invite my colleague Maxim to take over and walk through a few examples of the kinds of findings and advice that you can expect from DevOps Guru for RDS.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Well, I'm going to start with a simple example. What do you think will happen if you drop an important index on a busy production system? Trouble, right? Well, the good news is that DevOps Guru for RDS will detect it. Because queries will now run longer, for obvious reasons, DevOps Guru for RDS will see a high and unusual spike of database load metric. It will mark this spike as an anomaly and send an alarm out to the system operator. The next thing DevOps Guru for RDS will do is that it will run analysis on the spike that it just detected. And specifically what we're looking for is the major troublemakers, the wait events that are dominating the spike, and also the SQL statements that are suffering from those wait events. Looks like in this case there is a single wait event and a single SQL that are relevant to look at. Now, as Jeremiah mentioned, wait event names tend to be a little bit cryptic. that's why we created simple descriptions that everyone can hopefully understand, and they will tell you exactly what's going on rather than the cryptic wait event name. And of course, you can also look at the statement that is having issues at the moment. Well, one thing that DevOps Guru for RDS does is that it provides reasons for every single thing that it finds. You can drill down and see exactly why we think this problem exists in the first place. And also for recommendations, you can see exactly why we recommend to apply these specific solutions. But again, the most important thing, and I really want to highlight it, is that there is a link here that says View Troubleshooting Doc. If you click on that, that brings the detailed troubleshooting document for this wait event that tells you likely root causes for the issue that you're seeing, as long as the remediation steps that you can take to solve that issue. And you know, I have to admit that unlike commercial databases, in open source, this sort of documentation tends to be scarce. And that's why we looked across our fleet and you know, determined the most commonly occurring wait events and created troubleshooting documents for all of them, so which should benefit a larger user community. All right, so let's get practical. Imagine that you are running an online bookstore and it's Christmas season sale. Now, one day, a handful of your customers start seeing slowdowns on the main checkout page, and sometimes even timeouts. The problem is very intermittent, and it doesn't happen for all of the customers, and that's why the regular monitoring solution that you run does not recognize the problem as of yet. Well, but what's going on? Well, it turns out that the new Harry Potter book is out, and many people seem to want to buy it, which makes it a very popular item in your catalog, and in turn causes lock-in contention on your database. Now, lock-in contention is kind of tricky to recognize by using traditional, say, CPU-based monitoring. For example, if you can see in the chart here, there is a little bit of a spike recorded during the time that the database was having lock-in issues, but the spike is not nearly high enough to trigger any alarms, right? So it doesn't look like a problem. However, database load tells a different story, right? Because many queries are now taking longer to run. They start registering as active sessions, and DevOps Guru for RDS picks up on that and sees a high and very unusual spike of database load. Now, the one thing about this spike is that it has a very peculiar shape, right? Sort of like triangular shape. And there is a reason for that as well, and it has to do with the common configuration, or should I say misconfiguration issues on application connection pools. In essence, what typically happens is that if the existing connections cannot complete their queries on time, then the connection pool starts issuing new connections. And more often than not, that actually makes the problem worse, as you can see here. All right, so DevOps Guru for RDS will find this issue, will mark it as an anomaly, and will send an alarm to the operator about it. It will then start running analysis, and again, we're looking for the most common troublemakers, right? The dominating wait events and the SQLs that are suffering from those wait events. And looks like in this case, the dominating wait event has a name of wait sync mutex, InnoDB, Aurora, log Fred Slot Futex. Now, I have to admit that I practiced saying this name a few times before the session. And as you can see, Aurora and in general, wait event names can be pretty long and pretty hard to decipher. But fortunately, with DevOps Guru for RDS, you can click on the wait event name, and it gives a simple description of what's really happening in your database. And looks like in this case, it's simply that there are multiple write-oriented SQL statements that are competing for the same records. Of course, you can also see the statements that are being involved in that competition. And at this point, the problem should become a little bit more clear. But you can also click on the View Troubleshooting Document link and see the likely root causes for the condition that you see and suggested remediation steps. Now, unfortunately, in this case, this problem is not very trivial to solve. There's no magic database parameter that can be turned on and make this problem go away. But the suggestions in troubleshooting documents should give a good idea how you can apply workarounds to address this issue. Well, there's more. Now, DevOps Guru for RDS provides multiple findings. So there's a main finding that is, relates to the wait events, but there are also additional findings that we call contextual anomalies, or internally we call them hints, that point out to other relevant observations about your system that happens at the time of the problem. And looks like one of the observations in this case is that the database connections had a significant unexpected spike, which DevOps Guru for RDS detected. And as you can see on the graph that we highlighted, the shape of the spike actually looks exactly like the shape of dbloat spike, which gets you thinking about what the potential problem might be. And then the graph for incoming connections, which shows the static constant stream of incoming connection, confirms the theory that it's really the connection pool issues that need to be taken care of. Right now, we support several contextual anomalies, database connections being one of them, but there are also contextual anomalies for CPU oversubscriptions, memory pressure, and others. All right, let's switch gears and look at another example. Now, it's interesting to think that there are some systems out there that are so latency sensitive that deviations from expected query latency can bring very real financial damage. Online trading systems, for example, are like that. And right now, let's look at the query that such a system can run to update a stock ticker price. Right, so these queries run very frequently, and on average, they expect to take 2 milliseconds or less. Now, imagine that there is a new application server fleet that is brought in because of the workload increase. And it just so happens that this application fleet comes in with default setting for the database driver parameters. Well, default is not always best. And in this case, the setting in question is called auto commit. When the setting is set to true, which is the default, it means that every single write query that runs in the database will have to be followed up by implicit commit. Now, what this means in practice is that now every write query will have to actually synchronize its data to disk, and which of course increases the latency of this query dramatically, right? So the average runtime of this query went from 2 milliseconds to 23 milliseconds, and that's significant for that type of system. Fortunately, DevOps Guru for RDS was built to recognize this sort of issues. Because queries run longer, they start registering as active sessions, and DevOps Guru for RDS sees the high and unusual spike of database load activity. It runs the analysis, and you can see the major wait event and the query responsible for the slowdowns, or at least affected by that. You can look at the wait event and see that it is in fact related to commits. So a good information to start thinking about how to solve this problem. And you can actually see the statement that is suffering from the ill effects of this driver setting. And finally, you can bring up the detailed documentation and see the exact action items that you can take to troubleshoot and solve this issue. I have seen these problems in the wild, and they tend to be extremely difficult to troubleshoot, right? Like if you think about it, it's not even a bug in your application. It's just some driver setting going wrong. So very, very difficult to spot. But with the help of DevOps Guru for RDS, these issues can be understood and hopefully solved much quicker than you normally would. And granted, this is not yet a complete root cause analysis, but this additional contextual information should provide a good amount of information to help troubleshoot and resolve the issue. And with that, I'm going back to Jeremiah.
Thanks, Maxim. Those are some good concrete examples of the kinds of insights that DevOps Guru for RDS actually can provide. So today, we didn't only want to tell you about just this great new capability. We wanted to provide you with some of that foundational knowledge that could help you understand why it matters to find and resolve performance disruptions. RDS and Aurora are designed to take care of the complicated parts of running a database. But performance issues are one of those complicated parts of running a database. And until today, we only really had performance insights to help you shine a ray of light into that topic. And it wasn't really automated. But now we have DevOps Guru for RDS. Using ML and all our experience managing Amazon databases, we're going one step further towards making performance management one of the automated parts of our managed database services. Thank you so much for attending, for learning about this great new capability, and for letting us deliver this information to you today. Have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week.